Central office is doing a barbecue thing, so not that. Barbecue.
They are being.
No way. I say it's Iowa, and this isn't going to be a huge thing. Ready? There he is, right there.
I don't know if, what?
Levi? His question.
Is it?
Have you assume it's like your camera might be? Kind of scoot this over, make it bigger. Start videos. So then, there you go. You just hit the number 1. That's like a preset, and then you can just adjust a little bit from there with the arrow pads.
So I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, we need to,
You can't even quite get in.
can't quite get everything.
That's darn.
Yeah.
Okay,
We need to rearrange these tables a little bit. We'll do that next time.
there you go.
So,
Okay.
audience like-
We're live.
All right, at 6:32, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Call that roll call, please.
Richard,
Here.
Teben, Melhouse,
Here.
Nystrom, Elthon.
All right, recognition of visitors.
Yes, we have a couple of recognitions that we want to have. So Autumn, do you want to start?
Oh. Didn't think any would know that she's there because it sounds amazing. In that 80-something-year-old building, so that smell amazingly clean. She was not nominated by Alan Beckman, but I know a variety of staff supported us because she's new to us, but she is that. But I'm gonna read what Ellie wrote and then. Amy recently joined our little corridor team and as well as all. She has provided all staff and students with the best. Most we have had in years. She goes above and beyond to ensure our school is safe for all. From cleaning up glass on the playground, which she picked up for the first day of school because we couldn't get it cleaned up. To ensuring that everything is working in order. She's created relationships together. She takes great pride in the position as a huge team player. She gives the school her best each and every day, and she does. I'm gonna get started, but it's amazing. And it's hard because she works so hard all the time, every second that she's unsafe for us. She is truly the definition of giving it all of the time. I've never seen it that clean. It's amazing. It just feels good to walk in.
All right, I brought Katie Saylor with me tonight. Katie, I've said before, we're really fortunate to have an outstanding team of associates at Franklin and CoreSat, and Katie's one of those. She just does a great job of modeling those values that we have in the district. Things like doing the fresh start every day. Building positive character, ensuring learning. She does a great job. She's a one-on-one associate, but also does such a great job of building positive relationships with other students in the class, so that she not only supports that one student, but to be able to support other students who are needed. And when she's outside, she's able to help at recess. She does a great job of problem solving, and she always does it with a really positive attitude, a smile on her face. Every day she comes to school, and you could. No matter, you wouldn't know if it was the best day or the worst day, because she always has a great attitude and is super positive. So she was nominated by her supervising teacher, Emma Dorsey, and myself. Heidi McPartland she works mainly in Heidi's classroom right now. And she's talked a lot about how she is to have her, and the teacher whose classroom she was in last year talked about how lucky she was to have her. So felt like she'd be very deserving of the award. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
All right, the consideration of the agenda, any changes to it?
No changes.
Unless there are questions, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Put the motion, is there a second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. On to the point where we'd like to hear from anybody in the audience. Who would like- Everybody's here to speak.
So,
Okay, we're on to routine business. I didn't see any bills.
I'll move to approve the new business.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. ACT report already?
So ACT report, Dr. James is going to present to you our most recent information that we on our ACT.
So we are lucky that we have a school ACT report. Schools across the state and the graduating class report for your seniors in 2022. And that data is data that's incorporated into our Iowa school performance profiles. Based on your graduating class of your seniors in taking the ACT or the SAT, and then also how well you do. How we provide that. Like 97%. I was average was at 46.6% of graduating seniors took the ACT test. That presented the data to you before. You can see kind of our 5-year trends in our graduating class and our for each of the subset areas in the composite compared to the state. And then I usually provide a chart that you want at the bottom to break it down and look at 50-75% versus that state average, since all of our kids take it, and most schools don't have 6%. Iowa students are taking that right now for about that average. So 50% level, there would be above the state average in overall composite. I think that's a nice comparison to say we are. Although that graduating class, I'll leave that now. Say questions on that. Then if we scroll to page 10 is our district-wide testing for juniors. It should just be noted that these are kids that choose to take the test again. When I looked at like our graduating class of 2022, there were 11 who had gone back and tried to take the test again. Composites. How that plays out for kids, but typically a few kids go back, take it again. This composite score gives you a pretty good indication of where we are. And like I said, a few will go ahead and choose to take that test again. So our average right now on that last year's juniors, this year's seniors is a little bit higher than where last year's graduates. Things in that data that are hard to explain with what's the impact of pandemic times, what's the impact of some of the learning that happened across their high school career. The one that's interesting down below is the percentage of our high school students that are meeting those college and career readiness benchmarks in each of the subject areas. I think that's something that's helpful for our teams to see. But again, it's different groups of kids, so you're comparing. About our fortunate to graduate and our work to kind of make sure that all kids have as many doors open as possible. We want career readiness benchmarks. And so the kind of recommendations from ACT I think are really helpful for us since it's been completed to all of our kids. So scroll just a little bit more. The 3 top recommendations in that ACT report are ones that other things that we have in the works. So the first one, those math college are lower in comparison to our others, and that stands out to me for sure. But I also, in looking back at this group of juniors, they were students who that place in time, they were 8th graders in 2018-19 when we took a look at our curriculum and the rigor of our math courses in algebra, and we made a shift in our curriculum. But we really realized that our previous practice had been to have kids skip 8th grade math and just go right into algebra. And we were seeing that the rigor level of what we've had in algebra and our new materials was too much of a jump. We did some reevaluating in the middle school. We were also implementing different curriculum. And we need to kind of get that in place first. Kids can't just skip. So what we have then circled back to is curriculum and for I'll just remind you, we have kind of a compacted pathway for core math learning that takes sixth grade and seventh grade and eighth grade and puts it into 2 grade levels. So they're not rather compacting that. The standards kind of spiral in a way that we've already had some conversations after this first quarter with the math team in the middle school. And okay, how many kids do we have in that compacted class? Are there other kids who might be showing now that they're ready for that? How can we put that into those classes to have more kids ready to take algebra in 8th grade or prior to 9th grade? That's one of their top recommendations of helping kids get to higher levels of math. And class is the first class that had that kind of in our rigor level in the math, and I think we can see that in some of their helping those kids take that 4th year math is really important to get them to feel that be ready. Of course, goes with that. Obviously, I put that in there. Standards are grading work, the routines are doing, it's really principles get funded that I know they can really rich discussions of routines around the rigor level. And guidance activities really help kids plan their college and career.
Question. Is there any way we can isolate out? Take online learning for them, where they are standing here compared to the class, staying in the classroom all year. You try to pull that data out and see. Nationwide, I'm saying COVID-19, all of you online learning, everything that really hurt. I'm just curious on our own little studies. We had about 75%. I would just be curious. Interesting information for the future and other school districts.
That would, I think that you, what you bring up is interesting. I did notice nationwide, not necessarily Iowa, but nationwide, there was a lower drop overall in the last 2. Other states. That I talked about.
Yeah.
Any questions? All right, on to open enrollment changes.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be good for us to discuss the changes and how that has impacted us, because we're all aware that open enrollment changes that occurred late last year with having no deadline anymore. So previously, open enrollment, you had to apply prior to March 1 of the year, prior to the year that you were going to exercise that opportunity. And now there's no deadline. And so we kind of wanted, between Paulette and I, we want to share some of how that impacts us. One is in the report that we give you in the consent agenda. Before, we were making recommendations based on good cause, but there's no like real good cause. The only piece that we as a board have an opportunity to deny a request would be if we were full. And so as a board, you would need to decide what full means. And we do not currently, we did talk informally last year about class sizes. but we do not have a formal board policy in our district about what determines full. So that's something that I wanted to bring to your attention that can potentially have an impact on us as students move between districts without the deadline. So that's really the only reason for denial. So when you receive this in the consent agenda, they'll simply be, you know, whether they're leaving us or coming into us, and there's no, I mean, we're going through the motions of approving, but we do need to decide, are we going to develop a board policy around what full means? Because if we are, then I would just ask for you to share with me kind of what you would like to see with regard to that policy, so I can then bring it back to you in the next board meeting as a policy draft. Just something that I wanted to bring up. And I know there were some other things. So Paulette, what were some of the other things that you were going to also share?
Sure. So there's also a financial impact. As we all remember, money follows the students. When they go, you know, when students go out, we pay other districts. When they come in, other districts pay us. And in the past, it was all based on who had counted them for certified enrollment that year. The Department of Ed is in the process of creating and recommending some processes and procedures for I think, you know, to be adopted into administrative code. At this point, we still aren't sure exactly how open and to be billed come January with these changes to the law. So we're still kind of waiting to see what the actual financial impact may be on this change. Obviously, it's a big change as far as planning for the upcoming year, because without that deadline, it's come and go anytime. So stay tuned.
Yeah. So we're still awaiting that. We had originally heard that we might hear before November. That has come and gone. So we're still awaiting that guidance. So as soon as we receive that, we'll share that with you. In the meantime, I believe all districts are just not doing any kind of billing or paying
Right.
any
Right.
kind at this point until we know what the guidance says. Because by now we would normally have.
Right.
done
And I
that.
think they were proposing to the rules committee, I think next week or maybe later this week. But we don't typically bill for open enrollment until the end of the first semester and the end of the second semester. So as long as we have them by January, and know how to do that by then, that will be great. What we just don't know and would have been nice to kind of understand is the financial impact on the budget.
Questions about that? Yeah.
So last night, if I remember correctly, we wanted a work session, 9 o'clock.
Mhm.
Take one week, do the next week, another, third week off, and we have enough criteria to. Say, okay, our third grade, guessing third grade is 24. Possibly be added, whoever they add in the class. Really complex.
So even
Yes.
prior to, go ahead.
It is, and I did look up, Iowa, the IASB, did adopt a policy last March, I think, that is mandated by this new open enrollment law and reflects the requirements of, I'm showing it to you on the screen here, but so I think this will be something that we can use to bring a proposal back to you.
Mhm. But I think we also do want to solidify more so class sizes in that having a range at least. We are very, very full in third grade right now. We're at 27 in a class. So, and I know that's higher than what the board discussed last year. This is written so you don't have those specifics, but I think that it would still be good also for our planning purposes. And we talked about staffing for us to have an idea of what is that and have that in policy so that it can help drive those decisions. Because we'll be talking about staffing for the next year soon as well. So while this helps give some language that's mandated, I think it would not be a bad idea to also have more specific guidelines from our district's perspective. And nothing's perfect, but if you have some guidance, then you know when you're going to pull the trigger on hiring a teacher and when you're not, versus, you know, just kind of your gut feeling. So
But we're talking about a policy to decline someone wanting to come into our district.
not necessarily that. That's if you were wanting to because we didn't have space, you'd need a policy to back that up.
Have we been in the
But-
position where we've been worried about absorbing the student?
I think we would be right now in third grade. Seven, pretty much across the board, right?
we're 25 to 27,
Okay.
depending on which class. We lost.
But I'm not saying that I would make that recommendation. I'm just saying that there are some districts that are currently in that position and have denied based on lack of space and lack of an opportunity to have an ad of a teacher. But that's what we need to decide as a board is what is our tolerance level? Would we deny based on that? And if we wouldn't, then maybe it's written as a staffing issue, not from the other basis. Because there are two pieces to that. One is the open enrollment side, the other is staffing. How do we know what our staffing should look like? So that we know how many sections we need. But it was perpetuated with the open enrollment conversation, so. Just kind of wanted to put that on your radar and so.
Same as far as amounts.
I haven't looked at thus far. Have you looked? I think we're still.
I don't have that right off the top of my head. No.
I would say, so I know I've been asked if I've seen a marked difference since the change. No. I don't know that we've had an unusual number of people. I mean. Some of the ones that are coming through would have been there with or without the deadline because they moved. And so you're allowed to open enroll when you move, or if you move out and you want to stay in the district that you're in, those are the most common reasons that we're still receiving. But I do think you'll see some where individuals
plus-
choice to do
We're
the
always
other.
plus 10 or something out.
Historically, yeah, I just haven't looked up to this point to see where we are right now. Mhm. But yeah, I have not seen a difference based solely on the change in the deadline. That has not negatively impacted us. So that was just
More to
discussion,
come.
no action, just discussion.
The other question? Hearing none, we'll move on to Crossroads Network Infrastructure Contract.
Hey, it's Levi.
But the school of library ground. By the way, so.
I think if there's no one else that does this type of thing. There are not a lot that are going. Communication invaders, bid and read back out for the.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good teacher, Patty.
Okay, so if you recall, a couple of months ago, we had talked about shortage of bus drivers. Well, we also have a grave shortage of sub teachers. And so you can see on our summary that these are some of the ideas that we have to help incentivize new sub teachers coming into our system. One of the things we had also discussed was posting for a permanent sub teacher. So we'd have some reliable sub teachers. Our problem is our pool is so small that we'd be pulling from the very people that we need anyway. So we have a need to bring new staff into the system. And in addition to some of these ideas, I shared with you that we had sent out a survey, and we have 42 individuals that received the survey. We only received 7 as far as feedback. So we obviously have some work to do in helping them feel more connected to our district, if that's the return rate of our survey, because it was a 3-question survey. But I also think that's indicative of, while you may have people on a list, those that actually sub for us are actually quite small. So these are some of the ideas that we have, and I can kind of walk through the ideas with you. So maintaining a competitive daily pay rate. So a couple of years ago, 3 years, actually, it's my first year here, we raised our rate to 135. Now everyone else has raised it to that level and a little bit higher. United, I believe, is at 135 along with us. And then we were in this similar range, but it's probably time to bump it up to 145 now. When we look at our area school districts, our idea of offering a Friday incentive for subs going forward is that Fridays are a day that we have a very difficult time. It's difficult to find them any day, but if there's ever a day it's more difficult, it's Friday. So the idea of offering a Friday incentive for subs to sub on Fridays, because if someone's going to use personal, it makes sense. We're going to want to attach it to a weekend. Most people, if they have activities on a weekend, they take place on Saturdays. So usually they take Friday for traveling. So that's, I mean, it makes sense that that's a day that's common. So if we were to raise the daily rate to 145, maybe a Friday incentive of 175, because that's still lower than what we pay those that do long-term subbing for us. We're at 182 for sub teachers that sub for us 10 days in a row. A year-end commitment incentive. So in other words, if you work for 50 days in the district, not 50 consecutive days, just 50 days in the district, offering an incentive of $1,000 if they would do that. A referral incentive to current employees after a new employee subs for 10 days. Our best advocates are our own employees. And so if we were able to attain new sub teachers as a result of a referral from a current employee, perhaps the employee could receive $100. Once they've subbed we'd want them to sub in our district for at least 10 days before we give the incentive, but that's another idea. Marketing for online self-paced substitute authorization. So substitute authorization, we think that some people just aren't aware of their ability that they could actually sub. Because there are self-paced sub authorization classes that you can do. And we think if we can market that and let people know and then reimburse them once they've subbed for us for 10 days, again, not consecutively, but 10 days, reimburse them. It's about $350 to go through that process of getting the sub authorization, take the class and things like that. That might be more appealing if they know that they're going to be reimbursed those costs. So those are the ideas and recommendations that we have to try and incentivize some new staff coming on as sub teachers. When we did receive the 7 responses, the vast majority of them said that school climate and classroom subject that they would teach weighed heavily, in addition to the ability to schedule ahead of time. And then they all, everyone that responded, it was 20 miles or less that they would want to travel for subbing. So that also told us the people that were drawing are the people that are like right here in Boone or very nearby. Not necessarily the people that are going to drive from the metro. Again, it's a small subset of the people that we had, but that's the feedback we received. Pay did make the top list for 2 individuals, I believe, out of the 7. They had marked several things first, because they could mark first, second, third, and you could mark like 3 things first if you wanted. But it seemed to mean more the climate and the subject that they were doing than the pay. But those are the ideas that we have for trying to incentivize sub teachers.
By climate, you mean they prefer certain buildings?
They prefer certain buildings. They might prefer a grade. We did ask about grade level. That didn't see, there were some that responded with that making a difference to them. I would say I know secondary isn't going to feel this way, but elementary is harder to find sub teachers for than secondary, even though they also feel the crunch. When you survey our subs that currently sub for us, fewer desire the elementary than the secondary. So that's what we've been told by those that sub for us. So those are the things that we've discovered thus far. I know we're not alone. Other districts are also scrambling to find ways to, but we definitely have a need to bring more people into the fold.
Like on average, roughly how many subs do we need a day?
You have that, right?
I can tell you.
We looked
yeah.
that up. You-
So for the month of October, we had a fill need of 221 subs for the month. And our fill rate was 73%. Pardon?
Roughly.
Just,
That's classroom.
It's just
That's
classroom
not
teachers.
associates.
Right.
Mhm.
If we had permanent subs, would it be a benefit position?
So our problem is, even if we did do that, is that the people that we would draw from are the people that are subbing for us now. So we like the idea of a permanent sub, but it doesn't really solve the problem if we don't have more people to replace those people who take that. You know what I mean? So the ones that already do that,
If it's a benefit position was hit with a scale where you would increase each year versus a straight wage type position, I don't understand what is permanent, like a teacher.
permanent sub would mean that they would be hired to sub every day, and we would tell them where they were subbing
So they.
every day. And so then they would have the consistency of knowing they had a job
They
every
wouldn't
day.
get a contract.
They would not have a contract. They'd have a permanent subcontract, but not like a continuing
Do
contract.
they get benefits or anything like that?
Mhm.
They would be benefit eligible, but the other challenge with
Mhm.
that is that if you don't have one for each building,
Right.
it becomes
Mhm.
kind of a
Difficult.
difficult task
The
to
district-
determine where
should
that
they be?
person goes every day. We do not have any now.
I think
We
I-
have
I
guest
personally, health
teachers.
insurance would be a huge draw, wouldn't it?
The districts that have done it have not experienced the draw they expected. That's what I would say. Because the ones that took them on were not necessarily new people coming in, they were within, and then they lost their reliable subs that they had. So we have one in particular that's currently subbing in a long-term position in our district that subs pretty much every day as well, and might as well be permanent, but so say that person took the permanent position, that takes her out of the pool that we pull from already. That's our problem right now, is we need more people in the pool. Not that we couldn't do it, I'm just saying that that's been the challenge in talking with other districts that have gone that route. Because that's how this is how this list came up, is we started with the idea of coming to you with a request to do permanent subs. That's how this conversation started.
I think I saw on paper where once they focus on it, school district, someone. They didn't have enough.
They did.
subs.
Mhm.
The other question is. How does the teacher overload? Is, they have a teacher gone. Whoever teacher has a free period has to go sit in that.
So our contract currently,
That-
yeah, so our contract currently states they do 3 per semester before they start getting paid, and then they get paid, leave, $8, $25. We raised it last year, I forgot. But $25 to cover that one plan period. And so then it's a strain on the staff. And we did also change that in the handbook this year because it used to say only secondary teachers receive that. And we changed that so that if there were elementary teachers also giving up their prep, that they also would be eligible for that pay because they were not receiving that previously. It was inequitable prior to this year.
How often do we have to?
You know where we are with that right now?
I do not know where we're at with that right now, but I do know that it is a huge topic of conversation. IASB actually just sent out a survey today regarding, it's called teacher coverage.
Mhm.
And I haven't had a chance to look at those results, but they've asked districts to report on how much they pay for each teacher coverage. And I have not, I don't, that would be something I'd have to ask Teresa, how many people are getting paid, because I don't think that really is in a SOP.
Right.
We report it by semester, so teachers keep
Okay.
a log and then meeting people log and.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends, right? Like, we might. Let's say first and eighth period teachers probably say it happens all the time. Something will happen and somebody's late. Somebody's sick in the morning or has an appointment in the morning. So first and eighth period teachers would say it probably happens on the regular, but I would say we have to cover. There's 35 period one school.
It's common for athletics,
Mhm.
for coaches and stuff too, who may have to leave early.
And we get a lot of subs. Right, compared to what I. And I know we get a lot more than.
A couple weeks in advance, we can get it, but I mean, even a couple days in advance, we're not getting it filled. So typically, up until, I mean, conference week was a little bit slower, because we all really. So that I was having 2 or 3 days a week when I was pulling Anthony Zimmerman, Meredith.
I was just gonna say, it doesn't really work at the elementary level to be like period coverage because everyone's schedule is not the same. So you might be in the middle of a math block when another teacher has their prep. And it just doesn't really.
So they aren't able to do their regularly scheduled job, but the thing that they weren't receiving previously was that prep time. At least there's something that during that prep time after they do that, because it was written previously where they wouldn't receive anything, but they aren't able to serve the kids that they normally serve when they're being pulled from those positions. So,
And we have anywhere from
like in middle school, I do that almost never. So. That, but we also sometimes don't feel from this like conference week start. Lucky in the sense that we have multiple associates, a couple have teaching licenses, 3 or 4 that has sub authorizations, so I'm able to pull associates to teaching positions, but then teacher in the classroom, but we're short 5 associates throughout.
But again, we're pulling from other areas that we would normally have services for, so.
I would agree a lot of that, you know, I know the 5 years I've been here, it went from occasionally we would be short and have to cover to then. Got to the point where people put in that morning, we probably weren't getting a sub, we'd have to cover to now. Put in the night before, we're not gonna find a sub, to a couple days before, we're probably not gonna find a sub. So it's gotten really, it's really shifted in just that short time.
Why do you think that is?
You know, I don't know, it seems like after the pandemic, we really lost a lot of subs during the pandemic that didn't come back. I don't know if that's because people are nervous about coming back into schools.
I think that being sick or they wanted that flexibility. I think there's a teacher shortage period, so. Yeah, anyway, so a lot of people that like couldn't find jobs before, everybody has a job, so. Have a teaching degree that can be teaching full time because.
It was all back to teach the requirements to sub during the pandemic.
They did some, and so some of those have rolled back and some. Have to write permission for to get permission for, so some of those things are. I know like retired teachers at our level, we used to have. We don't.
I think when I graduated from college for a semester, I substitute taught. Where. Semester you're being offered full-time
Yeah,
job, so
I
I think
would say that's very much, yeah.
Depending on where you're at, that we talked about that some number at our last shot at some of the numbers of 3 or 4 of the schools were at 170 for their subject. So as you get closer to the metro,
Closer in the metro, the higher it
closer to
is.
the metro now. If we said, hey, we're gonna do 170, we're not gonna have people in the metro drive. Here, 7, maybe 7 there. That kind of started there and sometimes spreads out because they pull.
Our hope is by offering incentives that they'll choose us over Ames or some of the local area schools, they'll drive to Boone or they'll be here instead of elsewhere. Because the
Also
others don't.
part of the struggle is because there's deficits there, like when we have a. In fact, he's like, I have a school there, so they're short too, and he lives there, so he fills up all those sub jobs and doesn't have one call 2 or 3 days before. So I think everybody being short is impacting us being short.
Or another once a day and comes for names. Here and there randomly, perfect timing, and then I heard today that he's. Long-term sub position in Ames.
No.
Like one that's been filling in all of our buildings where we haven't had any, all of a sudden it's now locked up and won't be able to sell until.
I don't think you're gonna drive to Boone for $10, are you?
No, but that's why we've got all of these other incentives. Like if you do at least 10 days with us, we'll reimburse your sub authorization. If you do at least 50 days with us, we'll give you $1,000 incentive to come to us. If you're going to do 50 days in the district, you're going to go to 50 days in the district. That's going to be comparable in our rate to, I mean, I don't know.
I'm in favor of whatever you want to try. I think
Mhm.
it's for issue. Teacher retention, I think that's something we need to dive into?
Well, I think we also have teacher retention in addition to, again, I think the fact that we only had 7 respond out of 42 scares me. So we need to do more. So I know Pam, Jill and I have talked about orientation for subs, helping them feel more prepared, like feel like they're part of our school district instead of just coming into the environment and having to figure it out. So, I mean, that's an area that I think, just like we do with our teachers, and we've spent a lot of time and continue to spend a lot of time to make sure we retain our current contracted teachers, we need to do the same with our sub teachers. So.
Having 7 down right.
It's
But I like sub very.
So that's something, the number one reason was climate, and that's part of it. So that's what we have to focus our most of our efforts, but I don't think we can ignore incentives. And this is another way for us to help advertise us and make us different. That's the other thing. We've talked about how we would advertise that. But I mean, it's something to try, and if it doesn't work, we try something different. But
145 was right in the middle of the.
Paulette did the research, so I'm gonna have her respond to that.
Yeah, so some districts haven't responded yet, but like Bondurant, Farrar, 140, Ballard's at 140, Ankeny's at 155, and that was for this year. I just sent this out to Heartland AEA, so some of these aren't even our neighbors. I mean, obviously proximity is a big issue here, so we want to look at who our neighbors are, who we're competing with. Nevada is at 140, North Polk 135, Ogden 125, United 135.
So these are if you don't sub long-term, if you're subbing long-term for 182.
Right.
So that's, you can see some of those long-term ones too. So that's the other thing.
A lot of them are, you know, the 10 consecutive days in the same assignment for long-term subbing is very common. I did read something somewhere that average for the state of Iowa as a total is 155 a day. But again, that's gonna, you know, the larger metro districts are able to pay a lot more per day than the smaller surrounding districts.
I get. Survey our associates, let them know. That. Or, I mean.
We haven't advertised that because you haven't approved it. So as soon as you do that, then we can advertise that. Yeah. I think we would have more.
But
Mhm.
sounds like going to do state of Iowa is gonna be struggling across the board all the time. So maybe an immediate issue.
So I do think reimbursement of the cost for sub authorization is a good incentive. Because for a variety of reasons. One, you know, also the fact that it allows for some self-pacing that in the past you had to have a class and you had to be there at a certain time, and that was a real deterrent. Now that they made it self-pacing, I think that's appealing to people. I think also if you know you're going to get reimbursed and the pay rate's going to be higher if you're subbing, like that's a huge like incentive also.
6 years to pay off the training, and so I think this. We have to pay for the training.
Well, that they would have to pay for the training, they get reimbursed after they sub
Oh,
us.
oh,
Yeah.
10 days.
Because what we don't want to do is train them and have them sub elsewhere. So,
But I mean, 10
Yeah.
days versus 6 years.
right,
like,
correct. Mhm.
I feel like they're gonna say
Yeah.
that.
I'm assuming you've run the numbers and
Yes, she has.
financially we're.
Mhm.
That is the case, I move to accept the recommendation.
If it's associate, pay upfront that $350. I know it's a risk we're not of them because of that, but
We have a motion. Let's get a second, then we'll jump into some more questions.
Mhm.
Here a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Matt, sorry.
no, that's okay. Days giving somebody $1,000 versus the house. Getting that cost up front.
Five days, they're already.
If they're already a district
already a
employee.
If they're an associate, are they gonna get 10 days of subbing in order to get the reimbursement?
Yeah. Yes, that's not gonna be an issue.
The other thing about this. Oh, we got. You know. Yours, you just lost this.
Well, and the state is trying to alleviate that too with the teacher or the para apprenticeship offerings, programs that are in place right now that some districts are trying to do.
And that we're trying to do without necessarily being formally part of the apprenticeships. We have a couple of associates that we've been working with to try and get them actual teaching certificates and be teachers. So, I mean, that's something that we're already doing.
I don't think the 10 days is fair. Because I hate to have somebody say they're going to sub for us and give us 350 and then only sub once or twice and then because we gave the free. Often another district, you know, I think. I'd rather have them have a little bit. Before we pay it. Once again, it would.
Yeah, that's so that just to be clear, also the 350 is a combination of costs altogether.
Mhm.
So some of it is the cost of certification, like you have to pay the Board of Educational Examiners. Some of it's for the actual class, some of it, I mean, so there's different components. So while I personally am not opposed to like paying for that, my concern would be I don't want to have someone partially do something and then not actually follow through. So that would be the thing that we would want to make sure that they actually had completed all of it to actually be able to sub would be my only concern with that.
To respond to what Matt said, maybe I'm not understanding the question, but I think most of our associates, they're in that position because that's what they want to do. And when we have to hold them in emergency situations, they're always willing to do that and we're super appreciative. But I think if you ask them, if they could be a substitute teacher anytime they wanted, most of them can go get the substitute authorization. But I think they enjoy the position that they're in, they like that role. I think the $1,000 was to try to recruit new people.
So the 1,000 is if they,
right?
is if there's a teacher, someone subs for us for 50 days, that's the 1,000. That's not like just getting the authorization. Those are all separate things. So you could do all those things and kind of accumulate it, but yeah. That idea is if you work 50 days as a sub in our district, then we give the $1,000 incentive. The idea that you aren't subbing for us 1 or 2 days in a whole year, which we have right now, honestly.
I just had a thought with some author thing. They, I don't know, just random number, I have 5. So get their sub authorization and I use 40 days coming. None of them get reimbursed. Oftentimes those are our lowest paid employees. They make the least amount of money. Days, maybe it took 2 years. If we're keeping track of it, I don't know. I don't know that that's something we want to keep track of long-term marking up each day they get to. And what that incentive might be before they reach that 10 days together. So that would concern me a little bit that.
The current
putting
employees,
that-
right?
Putting that money out there, I can't legitimately say that if I have that many, that I'm gonna use them all. That,
If they have another job. So I think when we initially thought of this, we were initially thinking of those that weren't currently working for us. In all full disclosure, it was trying to come up with ways to entice people who didn't realize they could sub for us with 60 hours of college credit and the class and paying these fees that they could actually sub for us. we wanted them to realize that that was a possibility. So when this incentive was written, it was really written for non-employees. However, we could look at the current employees and if
Just
they
eliminate the 10
yeah,
days.
and eliminate the 10 days as long as they complete everything. We have proof that then reimburse. it.
Yep, we could
Mhm.
yeah,
I think it'll be
reimburse them
important to
after-
reimburse to make sure that they actually complete everything is be my
I think that
piece.
would be-
reimburse current employees after their first day of subbing.
After their first day of something.
I move to amend.
Okay.
To add in an additional item.
Incentive, yes.
Additional incentive for. First after the first day of, make sure that.
That was motion. It's a second.
Okay.
Have a motion, second, any other questions?
I'm just gonna say right now, I'm abstaining with my daughter.
Yeah.
I agree with everything reading more stuff. Yeah.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Same.
Aye.
Of course, motion did not include the updated.
Put a vote on the.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that in Assembly, but I will do that. I don't see an option to do I do a second
Yeah.
vote.
Now,
The questions on the voting. First amendment, or first motion.
main motion right now. Motion on the table.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Millhouse is abstaining.
Okay, I think we're good. PRC request for increased enrollment.
So this is something that you're probably familiar with, but we can request modified supplemental amount or spending authority for one-time funding if the certified enrollment count of the current year exceeded the certified enrollment count of the prior year. Now, that did indeed occur. So I would recommend approval to authorize the district's administration to submit a request to the School Budget Review Committee for a modified supplemental amount of $128,244.90 due to an increase of certified enrollment from the prior year.
Move.
Questions or comments? Favor aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. SBRC request for open enrollment out.
Yes, so we can also do the same thing when we have students open enrolling out of the district. So I would recommend approval of the authorize district administration to submit a request for modified supplemental amount of $294,138.90 for open enrolled out students who were not included in the district's previous year certified enrollment count.
Second, questions or comments? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. SBRC request for LEP instruction beyond 5 years.
So we may also request funding authorization for instructional services to limited English proficient students being served beyond the 5 years of weighted funding. So I would recommend approval to authorize the district administration to submit a request to the School Budget Review Committee for the modified supplemental amount of $3,113.46 related to the English language learning program for students who have exceeded 5 years of waiting that are included in the fall 2022 certified enrollment headcount.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any questions or comments? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. LED allowable costs.
So we can also request the modified supplemental amount from the School Budget Review Committee for the costs in excess of weightings and other resources for providing our limited English proficient program. So I would recommend approval to authorize the submission of $45,586.47 due to excess costs of providing the limited English proficient program in the prior year.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
How many instructors do you have?
Um,
Any other questions? Those in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution establishing Boone Community School District depositories.
So we have done this before, so it probably looks familiar, but I believe it's just
Mhm.
amount that needed to be modified to reflect the actual amount. So I would recommend approval of the updated depository resolution as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Questions or comments? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On the furniture.
Furniture contracts. So do you want me to talk or do you want to go ahead since you made the trip? So what I would share with you is I know, again, it was probably technically over budget, but in my experience 5 years ago, we spent that much in buildings for furniture. So I actually was pleasantly surprised by the numbers and would definitely recommend that we take the alternate. And that's how you can see the recommendation is written, is to accept both the 936,000 and the 17,900, because I do feel that that is something that we want to do now and not later.
Tables and chairs and spaces for fitness and nothing fluffy or shiny. It's just what we need to do.
Accept the bid for. That's the alternative number one.
We have a motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On the contract number 2.
The next one, so we had 2 different vendors, to get this came down to this, procuring.
Second. Second, questions or comments?
Okay, basically, actually. So for all these are, these are contracts, so we one of the patient for these. That they are implemented, previously in the state. So on the bid form, what they did was. But you have to, actually have not, all. They just have a web, offering for. It used to be very limited, this is almost their entire time. There's most of the. We put things in, so. They didn't show the date for the. Right, the different out of that would be grass.
Yes.
Motion and a second, any other questions or comments? Favor aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Signage contract.
Next one, signage. Outlines of the chapter 6 of the laws. Like.
Is there a second? Those in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Window treatment contract.
The exterior with this. Also provides for window covering on the inside. For swing in the field here. More than that, which is more manual shades and things. But again, a little bit there. Where
That one was significantly less than the other two, like half.
This includes. Yeah. On the glass windows.
We have a motion, is there a second? Comments?
It's the side window as well.
All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else to bid on this field, the playground?
So the last remaining contract is like now, so we're at. Which market is. Long installed, but the pricing.
Recruiting tool is gonna be our.
That's
Yeah.
So that's, we have high standards.
Yes, that's right.
The Conversation that we're having. About grants and possibly bigger endowments, so we're just gonna have to get creative and,
I'm looking into grants
yeah,
now. Mhm.
figure out how we can. do it.
Yeah, you have two players on the. Being appropriate. Driving right now is the service. Have a actually concept of knowledge. The service. Shopping for us because doing a very.
That's one of the reasons why we're looking at grants to help with the funding, because we definitely want to make sure that we get what we feel our students deserve.
What was Storm Lake's process? I saw theirs got rebid. Was theirs over budget originally or?
No, because one of the bidders did not. They had two performances on the playground equipment, and then one was the earth one. Not part of it.
And you, tearing it out. It's just not. We don't have a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, we just did that at another. But.
Our team that has served on the playground committee is really awesome about making sure that they can be used. Nature and natural, like crawl under, crawl over, imaginative. What kids really love.
It's just favoring that to you.
Thank you. On the superintendent's report?
Sure, so building projects updates. I don't know, do you want to talk about HVAC or you just want to? Yeah. No, I think HVAC's good, right? Other than we have potentially something that we'll need to discuss. So maybe talk a little bit about that. It's not something that we're going to act on right now, but we need to explain some of the things that we ran into. Friday.
So they're nearing completion, which leads to them. Before that work. Yeah, just build on launch. It's changed. One thing. Do this thing is. We're going to decide in the meeting. Their expansion tank system filled. This project separated two tanks are again. It's not something. So. Buys we. Up pipe. Drops and pipe and get the air separator in. There was some 6-inch pipe in.
We thought it sounded high, so we were waiting to see when it was reviewed, and we haven't had an opportunity to talk more about it. So,
Is that a Christmas break project then, or is it that still brought online until it's done?
Right now, we are just pointing out if we need. Site area. Flush probably.
There was some piping connecting the two that could have, is why the expansion tank was, it was all one system.
Yeah, my suspicion was that. They had either shore, I think.
OACI discovered it when they tried to fill that system.
Well, yeah, that's when the guy. Sure. To
I also don't feel like I should say a whole lot in regards to my opinions, because I could very well. So I'm not gonna, probably won't comment much more on which direction I think's best. Difficult in. That part.
No, because again, they just went through and did like their checklists on Friday. We're just trying to give you an update of kind of what we've discovered at this point, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. We still need to talk about, we're going to have, it'd be December meeting that we would probably take action.
And will you, recommendation,
Mhm.
be willing to make a recommendation?
Yeah.
That's
Mhm. Yeah. Brian had planned to be here tonight, but he had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to be here, so.
Yeah, when I did my walk. Makes a lot more sense.
Mhm. Glad you were here, thank you.
I thought you were gonna present on the signs or something. I was wondering why you
No.
were here. No, this is not good.
Yeah. With the gym, we did get the gym I don't know what we want to call it, redone, gym floor redone. Brett and I still have some quality concerns about that, a bit, the coloring of parts of it, did not return to the way that it was originally done. So that's something that we're still discussing with Edge Construction. It was the free throw lanes are not the color that they really should be. I mean, from a distance, they look okay. When you get close, it's not the right shade. So that's something that we're able to use it in. It's been redone. I want to say about it, Brett. I think we're good.
Have we paid them retainage yet on that project?
Nope.
Is Branson gonna come to the December meeting?
Yes, he will. He will be back. It was, yeah, I met with Joe last week about our concerns about when it was redone, and they actually came and showed some panels from the acoustic wall panels. The acoustic wall panels, there's still one color. The shading of our Toreador was not right. So I shared with them that change that needed to happen. When it's done, it'll be amazing, but that shade was off by quite a bit. So we had that conversation. So the vendor came out themselves. And so he was going to go back and discuss with those that make the product about the shading and why it was off and what they needed to do, and find out why it was off, because we couldn't figure out why it was so much darker. They had the Pantone, they have the color. We aren't sure why that happened. So that's something that we're still working on. So for the basketball season, they'll be nice and loud in the gym, lots of noise cheering on our team, because the block, cement block, will be the only sound absorbing measure up, because our acoustic wall panels won't be there. So
What about the Shoal Memorial concert?
that's going to be problematic. Yeah. Because our acoustic wall panels can't come for 2 months until after they're ordered, and I don't want to order something without signing off on the colors. So yeah. So it has been project, and it will continue to be so. So we will, again, we can use it, and it is still phenomenally better without the bulkhead. It's much larger. Our kids have a 94-foot which is great. It's just not gonna be finalized for. On the positive side, Ledges is on track. And even with snow coming, we shouldn't get enough that would be problematic with the section that's not enclosed yet. So we should still be okay. The last meeting, they are actually ahead of schedule in some areas than what they had planned previously. So that's also really good. So Ledges is looking really, really good right now. And Crossroads Learning Hub, where December 1 is still the date that we're supposed to get the rest of the building. So we were anticipating it sitting idle for a couple months, and it is. So wait till December 1st until we can get the rest, and hopefully, again, we're hoping snow stays away so we can keep that up. But it is, we did build it so that if we didn't have it, it wasn't going to ruin what's already done. So we built so that we had that frost. If you remember, we paid more to go over the frost level, so we should still be okay. So those are the project updates. Questions about those? Okay. And as far as superintendent's report, we had parent-teacher conferences last week. Pretty successful. I have not heard, haven't had an opportunity to hear if we know what our percentages were, but we will share that with you when we have those. We do strive very hard to have as close to 100% participation as possible with our parent-teacher conferences. It's a great opportunity to partner with our families. And I know that our teachers always look forward to, while it's a long week for them, it's a time that you look forward to as an educator to be able to share all the great things that the kids are doing. So that's something that I think has gone well. And we are second quarter already, which does not seem possible. Else beyond what we've already presented that I really have for you this month.
Right into the organizational meeting. All right, I will call this organizational meeting to order with a roll call. Elthon, Nelhouse, Nystrom, Pritchard, Teben. And the first agenda item is election of a board president. I would entertain any nominations.
I nominate Jeremy Pritchard.
Is there any other nominations for board president? If hearing none, then I would entertain a motion. Oops. Do we have a second? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Julie, that happened quick. You are. Take the oath of office. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board president in Boone Community School District as now or hereafter required by law? Thank you. I will turn the meeting over to Jeremy, Mr. President Richard.
On to number 2, election of.
I think
If there's no other nominations, then
With that being, but
Motion, is there a second? All those in favor, aye?
I,
I read that. For 3 board education travel.
This is just approval for the board to travel to local, state, and national trainings, and we do have our Iowa Association School Board Training coming up, so I'd recommend approval for that.
Questions or comments? All those in favor, aye?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we need to appoint legal counsel.
Yes, so we would recommend that we continue our legal counsel of Allerton Cooney for, let's see, as a school attorney, and Jordan and Mahoney Law Firm for our local school attorney.
Motion, is there a second? Questions or comments? All those in favor, aye? Opposed? Motion carries. I think that's it for this portion of the meeting. Right?
Mhm.
We're gonna move over.
Mhm. As long as it's open.